This certainly won't end up being a stressful challenge. Anywho, the Yakuza 0 No Heals challenge. What is it, you ask? Well, it's the brand new way to torture yourself. I mean, the rules are as follows. 1. I can't heal during battles whatsoever. I can't bring any storable healing items, such as staminans, food, no kind of gear that helps regenerate your health whatsoever. None of that. If I get locked into a battle, that's that. 2. I gotta play on legend difficulty. 3. I'm only allowed to restore health at restaurants. Since this is not a storable healing item, I feel like it's fair that I can eat at restaurants in between certain story points at the game, especially considering that I won't be grinding for upgrades during the run at all. Like, any money I get is just naturally gotten by completing the chapters or just fighting enemies throughout the game. So yeah, anyway, let's just get into it. So to start the game, you go through a whole bunch of tutorials. We already know how that go. We just gonna skip straight to Toko Credit. So the fights in Toko Credit isn't really hard at all. I just basically use rush style, switch to brawler, use a couple weapons. That's about it. Now Dojima HQ, that's where things start to get a little sticky. Around this point, I started focusing on using brawler style square triangle combo to give me a quick knockdown, some quick heat gain, all that good stuff. Once the enemy started to clear up after using the 1-2 method, as I like to call it, I started to switch back to rush, get some good movement going, and started clearing out the leftover enemies with a little worry. Now, I ended up taking a little bit more damage than I would have liked to. A lot more damage than I would have liked to, actually. Because since I can't heal, well, now I gotta face Yakuza, an entire boss fight without healing. So, that's just lovely, especially seeing where my health is at. Oh, that's just great. Now, this fight had me under extreme amounts of pressure. I'm not gonna lie to you. For the most part, you can kind of abuse Yakuza's attack patterns. Because, like, with a lot of Yakuza bosses, as soon as you finish your combo or get a knockdown, you pretty much dodge to one of their sides because they're about to start their attack pattern. So, Yakuza, I could get around having low health at first doing that. But he still gets a straight hit in every here or there. I don't got perfect execution. But even with my mess ups, I still ended up clutching it, thankfully. As soon as chapter 2 starts, there is literally only one thing I want, and it's the gun. You get the gun from the sub-story, and then you get the shooting. You see what I'm saying? So after you get that, it's really easy from there. This shotgun is what's gonna allow me to clear enemies pretty much throughout this entire run, if I can manage the bullets correctly. Now, although we only get one right now through this sub-story, there is ways to get even more shotguns later on in the game. Now, actually pulling up to Oda's place and getting rid of his flunkies is stupidly easy. Like, they really thought we was gonna throw hands. No. I'm pulling out the glick and everything's just gonna get handled just like that. And now we're facing Oda himself. Now, Oda at first was easy, like a little too easy. The rush style tactics was working, flawlessly. But, that second phase started. Yeah, my life started flashing before my eyes. The thing that makes this second phase tricky is the fact that you can't knock him down no more. As someone who likes to rely on the knockdowns and rush to build extra heat and give me some time to breathe, this was stressing me out a bit. And I let my guard down facing him because it was just like, oh, the first phase was so easy. Like, okay, he can't get knocked down, second phase still gonna be easy. Yeah, look at my health. So yeah, somehow, some way, I ended up beating him with a pixel's worth of health. Alright, so first thing first, we go to D&T and we get our free dagger and access to the weapon shop. Now, I can't cop a shotgun just yet because my pocket's looking a little dry. Just right now though. Other than that though, there's only one major interaction, and that's with Sodenbori goons. Like that's it. That's just their name. Like that's all they get. These bums are handled with slugger style. Like it's not much to the fight. It's not much to this chapter actually. Thanks to all the money gained from just handling those scrubs back there, we can now cop the Glick Skadilly from D&T. The massive man boss fight. One of the greatest boss fights in Yakuza history right here. except he's kind of scrubby. He's very easy to beat. You know, you do a very specific breaker combo and you trap him in the corner just like so, and there's literally nothing he can do about it. It's a GG. Next up, another wave of enemies show up and they get capped at and then put in the breaker schmix machine. And that's that. Now up next is a more infamous part of the game, which is the protect Makoto segment. But with the extended Frank and some more breaker loops, this part of the game is surprisingly easy. Like seriously, I wish I knew this back when I played the game for the first time. This would have relieved a lot of stress. What's the deal with this guy is a very tame reaction to the breakdancing shotgun man, by the way. Now after the protect Makoto segment, you know, I kind of ran out of ammo, but luckily I didn't have to protect her anymore. I just could fight without having to worry about the enemies attacking her. So for this little part of the game, I use slugger style instead of the good old gun and dance tech. Ladies and gentlemen, the cleanest suit in the series has now appeared. Nothing's topping the suit. I don't want to hear it. Besides that though, the D&T branch just opened up in Kamurocho, so you know what that means. There's one last section here, but it's nothing special. 2 shells and some rush style finesse, and everything's handled for the most part. Now, I thought this section was gonna be a cakewalk until I saw their health. Every enemy had a ridiculous amount of health. It was as if they placed every spongy enemy in waves in one section of the game. So I had to go through a lot more shotgun shells than I would have liked to, but as you're gonna tell later, it didn't really matter how many shotgun shells I used. Ran into a little bit of a wall. We'll get into that. Anywho, my mom said here was just to, you know, clear out the crowds with shotgun shells, as many shells as it took. But one singular enemy refused to get with the program. Mr. Kawara right here. Yeah, I hate him with my heart and soul. Why does he do shotgun drop kicks so consistently? Then he has armor on his moves. He actions is kind of scarce against him because again, I only have shotguns. I did not buy a variety of weapons like I should have. Listen, eventually I beat the guy. I did my thing. But man, this part took me an hour and a half. 1 hour and 45 minutes. I just couldn't get past this man. No matter how much health I had, I didn't understand it. I thought rush style was the move. It wasn't. I couldn't get a consistent knockdown. I was getting sucked in the hitboxes. I didn't have any weapons outside of shotguns, was scaled horribly against them. The only thing that I could think of that could work against Kuze was a loop that I remember seeing Froob do. Froob, who was much better than me at the game, he actually put Kuze in a loop, which I'm gonna call the beast loop. I don't know if there's an official name. Maybe that's it right there. You see, if you could get Kuze to block the entire string up until the finishing blow in beast style, you get a free knockdown plus stomps. Looking at it now, I was doing the beast loop wrong. Of course I was. I was supposed to do the entire string and charge the last hit. But listen, I did it and prayed for better days, and you know, eventually I beat him. The greatest boss of all time shows up again. Massive man. I mean Lee. So Lee, he murked me. He had me panicking. It got to the point where I wasn't even thinking about strats. I was just kind of dumping ammo and just praying that my heat actions would just do any sort of damage. I don't know why, looking back on this, I didn't just switch to slugger and do it like that. But I mean, hey, it got the job done, I guess. I could have handled this fight a lot smarter. My current strategies and mindset is not going to carry me to a championship. It's just not. With that being the case, I need to rely even more on loops and cheese. I don't care how it looks. If it's a proven method, I'm there for the W. To start off my new cheese revolution, I used a combination of shotguns and the dagger to handle Nishitani. Mainly used the guns to build heat, and then the dagger in order to cash in on my heat actions. After Nishitani, the shotgun and heat action Oki clears up the rest of the fights in this chapter, so not much to say there. Now we back to Kiryu, and as soon as I get back to him, I cop some guns, I cop some daggers, I cop some umbrellas. You may or may not see where this is going. Matter of fact, as you can see on the screen right now, the fight went exactly how you expected it would. Though after this, the third Yakuza fight was easy. Once I cleared the crowd with my trusty toolie and then used the almighty beast loops from the jump, it really wasn't hard at all. I now see why speedrunners use this combo with Kiryu so often. Other than that, I used some heat actions here and there, but it was just kind of a wash, honestly. Usual gunman tactics aside, there's one outlier to this section of the game, and that is the swordsman. Swordsman is tricky as hell for no reason. He's fast, he has armor, his katana hitbox will rob you if you're not careful. In fact, he murked me and I had to start this section all over again. It even turns out that he's unfazed by beast loops, so that's great. He'll also dodge bullets with ease whenever he just feels like it. My strat here was to pray for a knockdown with the grip and use a ground heat action whenever I could, and eventually it worked. For all three of the Coliseum fights, I just used a mix of slugger, my dagger, my pole, and my other pole to deal damage. I wasn't really trying to risk using breaker loops, so I just played a long game for real. And the strat worked for the most part until the last fighter, because he just decided to have the most health. Of course, he's the last fighter. It ended up starting to get pretty close because I was slowly running out of ammo, but I got the job done. Now, I will say, the fact that I struggled here with resource management and damage kinda scared me, because I know what's coming for me in the future. And it's not nice. It's not swell at all, actually. But Nishitani Part 2, the breaker loops worked like a charm. I don't know what happened. For some reason, Nishitani isn't as aggressive as he was back at Maharaja, and yeah, he doesn't even do his ground attacks or anything. He doesn't have as much armor. He's not going Ultra Instinct really. And it's in a small cell with 4 corners, so it's very easy to trap him as well. So thankfully this fight was just me, using the breaker's mixturization and using my dagger heat action to quickly end the fight. Now as soon as this chapter starts, I slide down to good old D&T to get a better dagger. And I ended up looking for a masterwork dagger, which is twice as strong as my regular schmegler dagger. Now I ain't gonna hold you, I had to, reload a couple times. We don't talk about that. Now the last section of the game bothered me in terms of my resource management. Then this one just straight up bullied me about it. It was ridiculous. The enemies were starting to come in larger packs with even more health. They weren't necessarily hard, but it was just a whole bunch of sponges walking around. So I ended up losing a lot more ammo than I wanted to. Then this man shows up. I'm already running short on ammo. I'm not feeling the most confident because I know there's a boss fight after this. But he has armor, he has projectiles, and damage. Why? I went for the breaker loops initially, but of course, he just armors through it. Because why wouldn't he? So yeah, all in all, he caught me off guard and I died. I reloaded, got even more guns. And this time around, I managed my ammo correctly and had more than enough ammo to deal with this man and build heat. Now he still got a couple hits in because he's a cheese ball. But eventually I got to finish him off with a little breaker combo, just something light, Now Sarah would have been a hard fight if he had aggressive AI. You see, instead he just kind of mopes around and looks for sweeps. Like there was points in the fight where he would just kind of stand and look at me, waiting for me to do something. Luckily he didn't understand, and I was just standing there with like 12 shotguns just bunched up in my pockets, just ready to let him loose. It was just delightfully easy until his second phase. Because, his second phase, he said, I don't feel like getting knocked down by your shotgun shells anymore. I'm just gonna tank everything. Now again, this would have been scary if his AI was aggressive, because he still just kind of walks around like the elderly man he is and does nothing. So instead of looking for the knockdown with a shotgun before running up with the dagger, I would just kind of shoot, run away, equip the dagger, run back, pull it out, heat action, rinse and repeat until the fight was over. Better or for worse, there is a car chase in this game. But honestly, it was easy. Now, even though I've gone through the hell of doing Kiwami's gun section, which is prepare me for the the worst of times, this section was actually very forgiving, I'm not gonna lie. After the car chase, there's a third Protect Makoto section, but I bypassed it easily with my Mickey Mouse tool. Yeah, beast style and gun tech handled literally everything this chapter threw at me. So unlike the last chapter, a little bit more is going on here. The Kashiwagi fight is like the Sarah fight. They both fall for the breaker schmicks until the second phase of the fight. Unlike Sarah, you know, it wasn't just a little normal cutscene. You know, I got hit with the fastest quick time event known to man, and then he took off like 40% of my health for absolutely no reason. Like how was I supposed to know that was coming that fast? So after he snuck me with a QTE, I said and I turned it into a third-person shooter. I didn't even attempt a heat action at all during this phase. I wanted no more smoke with this man. I just want him to be gone from my sights. And he didn't even want to do that because he ended up dodging more than half of my shots, which was just great for me at my resource management crisis. But eventually, he got hit enough times and everything was over. As for Nishikiyama, yeah, he got cooked. That breaker style was hitting him with a 4-way mix-up that he could not escape, no matter how hard he tried. Well, this is it. This is the chapter I was afraid that was gonna kill this run. So to start this out, we have Kuze for the 5th time. So, you know, it's a Kuze fight. You already know it's about to go down. Like seriously, like, do I even have to explain? Yeah, I get blitzed and thrown in the garbage. I bet you weren't expecting me to say that one. He took those ass whoopings to heart, and he slumped me with devastating efficiency. You know, I come back a second time, and he dodges every single bullet and slumps me again. I try a third time. It's another flop. The 4th time, I find something that's consistent, and that would be the gun and shank method. Build up heat with the gun, pull up the dagger, get close enough so that he can whiff his 38 hit combo, and then do the heat action after he gets done flailing around. Rinse and repeat. We up 5-0 against this man. This series has been done. It was a sweep before. Now it's just even worse for him. Now, what comes after this Kuze fight is a part of the game that I attempted for 6 hours. It is by far the hardest part of this entire run. In the last section of the game, there's multiple waves of spongy enemies, 3 bosses, and no more save points. If I die once, it's wraps. If only I could just, you know, use a little stamina next, but no, I can't because I put this challenge on myself. Instead of covering every single thing I tried here, I'm just gonna go with what I ended up doing on my last attempt, aka my final strategies for this section of the game. For Kiryu, I ended up buying a full inventory of Hardener Plus. Now this comes in handy for the very last fight of the game, but also, you know, I had to re-up on the shotguns, of course. Though the thing is, I couldn't really rely on my shotguns too much. I needed at least a couple shotguns for the final boss, otherwise my strategy would go out the window. So I had to be very careful not to spam bullets. So going through Kiryu's part, I'd say the hardest thing was dealing with the armored enemies. For some unknown reason, you know, RGG Studio said, hey, let's give every single big boned enemy a shotgun drop kick or some type of mid-air kick and have it be armored. And on top of that, let's have them chase you to the ends of the earth if you try to run away from them too. The main strat I would use is to use 2 shotgun shells specifically, if I could. Which the only true way I know to catch them without armor is right when the battle starts, when they just run straight towards you, because then you get a free knockdown. Coincidentally enough, in these areas with these armored enemies, there was usually weapons around. So as soon as I would get knocked down, I'd go into beast style, I'll grab a weapon such as a chair, do a light into a heavy combo for stupid damage, and I would try to rinse and repeat that until the fight was over. I would say that was overall the worst part of Kiryu's run. I had some issues with the gunmen, but more so that's just about being aware where they're at all times, because they're not hard to deal with, but you know. A 1 bullet on legend difficulty, that's like 30-40% of your health gone, and I need every single bit of health I can manage. Now the lead up to Majima's bosses was far easier. I could dump ammo as much as I want because the strategy I was going to use for his boss fights didn't really require much more than like one shotgun. So yeah, there was only one armored enemy in Majima's part compared to the 4 I had to go against in Kiryu's. So I just ammo dumped, heat action spammed, and quickly got rid of them. Now with both Majima and Kiryu sections, I've legitimately repeated them so many times that by the final attempt, I legitimately had full health on both Kiryu and Majima. It's getting to the point where I was starting to, have, 60% health for both characters, then 70, then 80, then 90. Because, I'm repeating the same sections of combat for 6 hours. I would hope I would improve somewhat. Golly. Damn, I hate them armored enemies. Anyway, for Majima's bosses, the strategy was the exact same. You do the breaker loop into a standing slugger heat action. Now the timing of this is kinda specific. It's not too hard, but you need to build the muscle memory for it. You need to be very aware of how much heat you're building up during the breaker combo, because that will determine when you stop the combo. Hurry up and switch to slugger, and then try to time the heat action for right when the boss gets up. Literally as soon as I would get a bar of heat, I just would purposely drop the combo, mash right on my D-pad, hurry up and get the slugger, closely watch the knees of the enemy as they're getting up, then hit them with the normal slugger heat action. What this does for both bosses is that you essentially trap them. Since you literally give them 0 time to breathe, they cannot go into their second phases or QTEs like they usually should be able to. And if you can rinse and repeat this, then you can drain their health all the way down to a pixel's worth of health. So that when you allow them to stand up again, they go through all their cutscenes and QTEs, but by the time they're finished, you just hit them once and that's it. After that, that's it for Majima. Now you're on to Kiryu. Well, if Kiryu's part of the game, I made it a pure battle of attrition. At this point in the game, I knew there was no way to cheese Shibusawa, unlike the Majima bosses. So I just put everything on the line and prayed that my resources could carry me through this fight. Every knockdown I would get off of a heat action, I would either shoot him with a shotgun to build my heat, or I would pop a Tarner. The Tarner was more so like a situation specific type of thing. And I'd usually get a Tarner if I messed up my position and if I missed a bullet, if I accidentally miss a heat action and my heat gauge start slowly draining, as well as a way for me to build heat once I ran out of ammo with my shotguns. Though this was a very scary method to use against Shibusawa because he hits like a truck and the fight lasts forever, thankfully his attack patterns are very easy to recognize, bait, and dodge until his last phase when, he just starts going for grabs. Why? I wish I knew again. So if you get too close to him, he'll just beat the shit out of you. Isn't that fun? But luckily you can always beat him up with a heat action if you're locked in, your time is down, and you're confident in your abilities. So all in all, the man got capped and shanked several hundred times, but eventually he went down and the run was over. And my reward for doing all this? A gold PSN trophy.